inspired from the conversations today. Tonight, we're going to hear some talks. They're really about sharing experiences. I know some of these ideas were touched on in the conversations today, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to hear from a number of your colleagues who are doing some work. Actually, it's very effective. So thank you. We're going to hear from our colleagues who are actually doing these things, work in the field, and hear about what they're learning here and share that with all of you. So last night, Richard introduced Sally Lehrman and the Trust Project in his opening remarks. And now for nearly, close to a decade, hasn't it? It's getting there. The Trust Project has taken a research-based approach to understanding how news is perceived by various consumers and how those perceptions can shape our approach to news. Sally's here tonight to talk about some of the new research they've been doing with Indigenous communities, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you've learned. Sally?
So I want to start really by talking about infrastructure. So infrastructure is essential. Done right, it can bring people and their needs together. It can support a healthy economy. It can even bring joy. Done poorly, it can cement, literally, problems for generations. It can slice through a community. It can destroy prosperity. It can separate children from their schools, people from their places of worship, businesses from their customers. In journalism right now, well, I think we all know, our infrastructure is in trouble. Distribution and revenue systems are crumbling. Disinformation is rising, with 50 countries looking at elections coming up. Public trust is vulnerable, and so is revenue. And yet, a cash infusion is coming into news. So this is an excellent moment. This is an opportunity for us to really think about rebuilding our infrastructure, and I urge you to think about rebuilding it for trustworthiness. We have to tear down those freeways to failure that we have been relying upon. Those things that we think maybe are very efficient, but they actually create openings for exploitation, for polarization, for active efforts even to sow distrust. And so we started by listening to one group that journalists mostly ignore. This summer, in research with the Indigenous Media Freedom Alliance, we talked with more than 30 Native people in 6 places and asked how they felt about news. And first we met with 15 Native journalists in 2 Zoom calls. They told us ways that our habits and practices are harming their people and others as well. Like Black Americans who have little trust in news, like the conservatives who have little trust in news. So 3 ways that they said we failed. Invisible. Native Americans, natives, and indigenous people are barely mentioned in the news unless it's around a situation of crisis or trauma, or maybe just in the form of mascot at a game. Errors, a big one is around sovereignty. Indigenous peoples are members of sovereign nations. Describing them solely as a race historically has been used to limit their rights and resources. So when we do that, we are contributing, and it feels demeaning. So getting to errors that lead to misrepresentation. Tribes have distinct histories, traditions, and interests that they care about. One person, one tribe cannot stand for all. And of course, there's more. So how can we support a healthy infrastructure for them and for all of us? First, they asked, learn about the communities that we're covering, their histories, the practices and policies that are shaping individual opportunities in their communities. And by the way, build community, work with them, and listen fully to them, not your assumptions. Recognize the power and the importance of getting it right. Now you may be sitting there like, what? How does that have anything to do with infrastructure? Well, it has to do with building these things into our policies, our own policies, our style books, our training manuals, our traditions. And so are your policies built for trust? Think about the trust indicators. Those are asking participants in the Trust Project to think about, are you making a public commitment to covering all the peoples in your community? Do you share information about diversity on your staff, the languages that they speak? Here are two more that came out of RTDNA's survey on trust that connect up with ours. Are you sharing information about your coverage decisions and methods, where your information came from, and giving access to your sources? And fundamentally, are you willing to take risks? In interviews, are you willing to ask questions and maybe get it wrong? And then if you do, to apologize. That's how we're gonna learn. So, how honest even are you willing to talk about your paid, how honestly, to talk about your paid content? Is your sponsored content actually content that is paid, that is approved, unlike Diggs here being able to approve the game or the way it's played? That might be the common way of thinking about it. So at the Trust Project, we are proud to have big logos part of what we do. We're also proud to have community media, including Buffalo's Fire, Osage News, Franco Press. Last week we welcomed in Extra. To build an infrastructure of trust, we all need to work together. So journalist Nancy Spears asks you this and invites you this, and I'm just going to let you read it because I won't be able to keep up. So read it, please, and think about what she's asking. And you know what? Trustworthy infrastructure pays off. Our research and others show that trust leads to engagement, leads to loyalty, leads to revenue. So these things tie together, and I invite you, in whatever way you choose, to really think about building an infrastructure for trust. Thank you.